Now had this bike for around about a month. I've done 2 long trips in that month. I've done about 3,000 kilometers. Let's go and do a review of the CVO 2020 Street Glide Harley Davidson, and we'll go and do it in some bushland setting.
All aboard!
Congratulations, guys. I'm filming a vlog for my channel. Have a happy life together. Now this is one thing I love about Sydney, is that I'm literally 15 minutes from my place, you know, and look where I am. I could be in the middle of nowhere. So awesome. Now I'm gonna have to do this review pretty quickly when I get off, because I'm actually in a national park and they do close the gates into the national park in around about 20 minutes.
Let's face it, I think this was really just an excuse for a ride, to be honest. So anyway, let's check out this CVO. Let me talk about real quick what I love about this bike the most. I would have to say, without question, is the colour and the paintwork. You know, it just blew me away the first time I ever saw it. I had my eye on this motorcycle for, well, ever since its release, so probably about 8, 9, 10 months. I've just got cars, everyone's evacuating this place. Fucking idiot. So I think this was a bit of a fail. I think we go back to the man cave and we'll continue this review. Alright, we're back in the man cave. The review of the CVO 2020 Street Glide. Also guys, if I can ask, and if you really enjoy the videos, please do subscribe and hit the like button when you watch the videos. The subscribing and the like button really does absolutely help the channel, helps me to be able to produce videos for you guys, you know, to enjoy. I love making them. It's a real hobby of mine, and seeing the channel grow is really cool. We're on our way to our first 1,000 subscribers. I'm really excited. I really want to bring out some content that's just really epic and awesome. That's really what I want to do. I want to have fun doing that and presenting that to you guys. When the borders reopen, you know, doing some border crossings around Australia is also what I want to bring, you know, to YouTube, so you guys can watch it all. So this particular guy is in the smoky grey and black hole, it's called. I want to start off with a couple of quick things. What is a CVO? A lot of you guys may know, a lot of you guys may not know. So a CVO stands for Custom Vehicle Operations, a specialist division of Harley Davidson that customise the bikes for clients pre-built. There was a guy by the name of Jim Hoffman that was a parts and accessories specialist for Harley Davidson, and I think after working on all the parts and seeing all the customization guys and girls were doing to their motorcycles, he went to Harley Davidson with an idea of, why don't we build a custom vehicle operations motorcycle, a CVO bike. And the first Harley Davidson CVO was produced in 1999. So that was when the first CVO came out. Since then, they've done a CVO each year. They choose a select amount of models from their mainstream production line. So they will choose a select few of that range to produce a CVO of each year. It could be the Street Glide, the Road Glide, it could be, you know, the breakout. They've done a few breakouts that I've owned over the years, CVO breakouts. So that's the story behind CVO. What is a CVO? What do I actually do to the bike? So the customization of the motorcycle from factory. The main upgrades generally in the CVO is that there is a lot of focus on the electrics being upgraded from standard. So when I say electrics, I'm talking about standard heated grips, your light switching panels are all the light up ones. These are accessories that you can buy that don't come on the standards or the specials. You've got a nice little crest up on top, which I'll show you a little bit later when we do the walk around, that lights up with the CVO. So that's all the electric side of it. Obviously the gauges, customized gauges they do with these CVOs as well. So that separates them from the standard models. The seats and the leather is generally a higher quality leather with some custom stitching. In this particular case there's a CVO badge stitched into the seat. They then look at the engine. Generally the CVO is generally the highest standard production engine that Harley Davidson make. They bring out in the CVO model. So as I record this, you know, the current models are the 107s and the 114s are the standard cubic inch motors from Harley Davidson in the standards and the specials that they bring out at the moment. In the CVO range, that goes up a notch to a 117 cubic inch, which is what this guy is. So it's really sort of engine, leather in the seats and electrics, and then all of your little customized bits. So it would be things like potentially your pegs, your floorboards, you know, your heavy breather, your wheels, you know, and all of the things that you would generally, most people would go and customize, you know, themselves aftermarket. So that's essentially what a CVO is. So you buy it, it's all done, it's all ready for you. The other big focus with CVO is colours. So they come out with some pretty crazy colours CVOs. I've got to be honest, most of them I actually don't like. That's really the trademark, I think, with the engine and a couple other things, but really the paint. The paint is where they really separate the CVO from the standard models. So when it comes to paint with CVO motorcycles, they are a one-off production, so whenever you buy a CVO Harley Davidson in whatever colour scheme, you know that colour scheme is never going to be reproduced, so it won't be done again. Harley Davidson actually will not replicate a CVO colour by request or by order. I guess almost license the paint work or the paint scheme with each CVO, and I guess that's probably what makes it special. Clearly that's what grabbed me with this particular bike. You know, this is, I guess maybe you like it, maybe you're absolutely in love with it, maybe you actually hate it, I don't know. Mixed reactions. It was something that I completely fell in love with. For me, I'm an 80s kid, and for me this is very retro, this is very reminiscent of the 80s and the era that I grew up in. I think they've done a brilliant job in relation to the colour scheme with that. Very Atari, very Pac-Man, very that 80s look to me. It ties in nicely with the red accents around the 117 engine block, so I think that all ties in really, really nicely. So the other question, you know, why buy a CVO? I think the answer to that question is really personal. Most Harley Davidson owners will customise their motorcycle in some way, shape or form. You know, there is a reason that Harley Davidson come out with a 900-page encyclopedia every year of every part you can order for every motorcycle. It would have to be their biggest bread and butter. And as we all know, if we've customised bikes ourselves, it is quite an expensive hobby if we're buying genuine parts. The riders themselves get a lot of enjoyment out of personalising their motorcycles. So we know all of that with the standard stuff, so why buy a CVO? I think first things first, if you're buying a CVO, you've fallen in love with the CVO that you've seen. You know, people don't just buy a CVO for the sake of it having all of those things that I mentioned, the electrics and whatever, because we can always do those mods and we can add those things up. But as a combined package, if you fall in love with what you've seen, then I think potentially you're the buyer for a CVO motorcycle as a complete package. The actual maths, when you break it down and you have a look at the cost of building a standard Harley Davidson and I guess converting it to what you see here, minus the paintwork, because that can't be replicated, although you could repaint a standard bike. But if you were to turn a standard or a special into a CVO model, From all of what I've read and watched from a lot of experts out there in the market, the cost is between about $17,000 and $25,000 depending on where you live in the world. So actually CVOs, when you buy CVOs, are actually pretty good value for money because, again, in Australia, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I know that in Australia, the difference in the bike, you know, I know that the Street Glide Special in Australia is probably about 37 or 38,000 brand new. And this guy comes in at around about 55, maybe with some negotiations, early 50s, right? So the reality is you're talking about, as I say, about 15 grand. Now, pull a standard motor out and buy a 117 block and put that in. I mean, that alone is probably 8 grand. You go and do, you know, all the little bits and pieces that you add on extra. You know, there's going to be a number of $1,000s in that. Change the wheels, you do a bunch of things like that, and you're going to build that cost up. So you can see really where that 17 to 25,000 sits if you were to do it yourself. Now the thing is, you may not do all of it yourself anyway, so you may not find that value, and that's why I say, you know, it's about falling in love with the machine, I think, as it is. The other big thing with customization of Harley Davidson is, as much as I love spending time on my Harley, and I love all the Harleys I've had, and I've had so many of them. I've had stock ones I've rebuilt. I've had Harley Davidson dealerships actually create bikes and build them for me. I've done a lot of mods to Harleys over the years myself, just through, you know, the book, and enjoyed every single minute of it. The reality for me, I'm pretty busy. I've got a business, I've got 5 kids, I've got, you know, it's a busy life, so finding the time to tinker, yes, my wife does allow me that. I have time to tinker, that is true. Do I want to spend it necessarily on my back with a torque set and a screwdriver and a ratchet and the rest of it, putting the bike together, or would I prefer to be on the bike riding it? And the answer is I prefer to be on the bike riding it. That's probably the lowdown. So as much as I enjoy buying different bits and putting them on, this bike here, really, you just buy it and lock it up. You know, there is a couple of things that I have done to this bike, which I'm going to show you. But by and large, really, there is not much to be done to the motorcycle itself. You can just buy it, enjoy it, and ride it. The other thing is the rarity. You know, I love the fact that CVOs are rare. I love the fact that when I ride down the road, it is unlikely that I'm going to run into the same bike. I won't say I won't, because there are a few on the road. First 3,000 Ks, how's it been? Okay, let's be frank about this. When I first jumped on the bike, loved it, really enjoyed it. I embarked on the first ride that I did, which was the first epic ride that you see in that video that's available now. When I started this particular ride, the first thing that hit me once I hit the highway was the wind buffeting. Wind buffeting, for those that aren't aware of what wind buffeting is, it's where you get violent head shake at high speed. So in my case, high speed here in Australia, probably around about 100 to 120k, 110k, sticking within the speed limit, you start to see that wind buffeting. It may start softly at about 90, but in full force by about 100 or 110 kilometers an hour. You can slowly get used to wind buffeting. It's not healthy because you're actually getting brain shake out of that while you're riding, so it's really not that safe. I would suggest if you're suffering with wind buffeting while you're riding, get it fixed. I've now since solved that by the new screen that I've bought, the Clockworks screen. So what you see on the motorcycle there is the stock CVO screen that comes on the bike, but there is a Clockworks one 6.5-inch smoked, dark smoked Clockworks screen. Google them, check them out, they do some awesome screens. The second ride that I just did was with the new screen. Worlds of difference. So it has fixed 70% of the problem. Not 100%, it's fixed about 70% of the problem. I don't think you can get rid of 100% completely, but so now touring, we're very comfortable. We're comfortable at high speed. You know, we're sorted in that respect. You know, I've just bought a really expensive bike. I love it to pieces. It's beautiful, but it's got to work. It's got to be comfortable. I've got to enjoy it. It's got to work for me, my height, my weight. It's got to work for me. That was the only negative I think I had in this first 3,000 Ks, really, to be honest. How does it compare to the Road King? it is a similar bike to the Road King, other than the fact that you've got the batwing fairing here right up front. I mean, the batwing fairing adds weight to the front of the bike. I've had a couple of street glides before this one, and before I started my channel. Geez, I should have started my channel some years back. So I know what a street glide is like to own. I haven't had a CVO street glide. I have had a CVO street glide. I had a CVO street glide in 2018. 2014 I had a street glide special, which I really enjoyed that bike. I had that bike for about 2.5 years. In my language, that's a really long time. And I really enjoyed the bike. So how is it different to the Road King? Effectively, from here backwards, it is a Road King. I'll just repeat that again. So from the front forks back, this bike's a Road King. The only change that makes this not a Road King is this guy here, which is the batwing fairing. Actually, even this area here is a Road King. So this is the area we're focusing on here, which is the nose of the bike that turns it from a Road King into a street glide. And I'm happy to be corrected. If I've said anything wrong, please comment, let me know. But the reality is, from my understanding, that's really the difference. So the downside with a street glide as opposed to a Road King that I had is obviously that weight. You know, to lift a motorcycle from parking position, obviously that does make it easier, and you do that by obviously turning the bars in the opposite direction as you lift at the same time. It's not really a big problem. Just be careful about where you park and be careful when you're lifting the bike up. I think that's probably the best advice I can give. But by and large, really, the batwing fairing I love. One of the downsides I did not like with the Road King, and I love that bike to bits, was the fact of the gauge being down on the tank, and I had to constantly take my eyes off the road to look at, you know, speed. I mean, when I say constantly, you're looking down, you always refer to your gauges. You know, your eyes are off the road each time you're doing that. Big deal? No, not really, but, you know, I've got to be honest, it is nicer having that in your eye set like you do in your motor vehicle, in your car, right? Gauges that you're driving behind your steering wheel are not down between your legs. 4 gauges on this guy. They light up really cool in the CVO. They're really awesome. Obviously the nav, actually funny enough, is actually really handy because I do use the nav, especially when I get, you know, doing my tours, because the new system keeps track of everything in relation to your trip. Your average litres, you know, or miles per gallon, litres per 100 kilometres here in Australia. Tyre pressure monitoring, so you can, you know, have a live snapshot of how the air's going in your tyres at any point in time, which is really cool. I've got the Boombox audio. Do I like pumping the system? Yes, I do. I absolutely do, I will tell you. There's 2 speakers in the dash, 2 in the saddle lids. And the surround sound you get from that is amazing. And what is really amazing is to be cruising at 100 kilometres an hour, 110 kilometres an hour on the freeway, and having your helmet on combined with wind and actually listening to that stereo pump out loud is just insane. I don't know how they do it, but it actually does work. It is, you know, probably not as quiet as being in a car, but it is so clear, and that is at 110k an hour. Really amazing product development by Harley Davidson, that's for sure. The rest of it, you know, whatever. You can do without it. How does it compare to a Road King? You know, it's a Road King with a fairing and a dashboard. You know, that's my answer. I've never owned a road glide. I love the look of the road glide, but I've never actually owned one. Let's have a look around the bike. That's the fugitive wheel, which is standard with the CVO bikes and only comes on the CVO bikes. It's a really nice spoke. It's in the gloss black. Looks really, really cool. Dual front disc brakes, of course. As you can see, the paintwork down here at the base of the front wheel guard. Another mod that comes on the CVOs is the headlight. You saw me do a review of this headlight, and if you had a look at the Road King special review that I did, because I actually bought that headlight as an aftermarket mod, or original, it's Harley Davidson, but I added it to the bike. In Australia, that was around about $1,300, that headlight, so very expensive headlight. It comes standard on the CVO, so that's another upgrade, obviously, in front of the standard or the special. This is the headlight that actually will turn into bends with you as you're cornering. At night it will light up the inside of the bend as you turn. You know, it's a pretty cool headlight and really bright as well, which is awesome. Batwing fairing. So one of the things that I have done to the bike, one of the first mods that I did as soon as I bought it, actually the first thing I did to the bike, was I had the bike wrapped. I've owned enough Harley Davidsons to know where they get chipped. You know, when you're riding, the common chip points are the obvious ones. On the front nose is a very obvious one. The front fender over the front wheel guard, always gets chips, and it seems to always get them around about this start point here, in and around this region. Seems to be where they are. I've even had them up as high as here. So as you see it, this bike is actually wrapped and you can't tell. That is what is so cool about it. It is wrapped in, I don't know the exact product they use. It's like a 3M made high sort of velocity plastic, you know. You can, if you get up real close here, I'm going to show you, you may be able to see that sort of very light line there. That's about all you can see, but in perspective, actually you can't really see anything in relation to that. It's really awesome. So that is all wrapped. So what have I had wrapped? I've had the batwing fairing completely wrapped. I've had the headlight wrapped, and in fact they've got to redo that. You can see that sort of got a little slight bubble here on the edge. The rest of it is actually perfect. The guys did a really good job. This one, I'll just take it back and I'll redo that headlight. Obviously this glass can get stone chips in it as well, so it's been wrapped from that perspective because the wrapping saves the stone chips. This front guard is completely wrapped all the way around. I've had the forks wrapped around here. In under here is another hit area where chips can happen. I even had the indicators wrapped. The front of the indicator is wrapped. That has a wrapping on it. The crash bar, if that's what you call them, these lean bars, they have used like a high epoxy enamel sort of thing that they put over the paintwork. Very difficult to wrap that and for it to stay on. I had the front of the heavy breather wrapped. So this area here, this front face of the heavy breather has also been wrapped. The complete tank has been wrapped. So this is another scratch point for a lot of motorcycles, you know, that can be from riding. Generally, you know, this is an impact point here at the front of the tank. So this area here I've had wrapped. Again, you can very slightly see the circle around there, very, very faint, but it's not really a big deal. But it's you know, the other thing that I've done is I've actually scratched my own tanks, you know, working or doing stuff or whatever, and accidentally dropped, you know, something on top of the tank that can just give it a chip. It could just be an accident, right? So that's now wrapped. They've wrapped this box here on the side. I don't even know what that's called. I probably should, but I don't. Whatever this is called, I've had them wrapped on both sides. This is a wear point, especially for a pillion when their leg comes over to the rear peg. You know, that can cause some wear. This is also an impact point here at the front for bugs and stone chips here. So that whole piece has been wrapped. The entire saddlebag has been wrapped. Saddlebags are an interesting one because saddlebags do cop it quite a fair bit. One of the main things, obviously, with guys that have had, guys that know if they've got touring bikes, is kicking feet over the top. I don't do it. I'm very conscious about it, but sometimes you can take a pillion that might accidentally kick their foot. They could have some rocks under their shoe, and it becomes a real problem for your saddle and your paintwork. So all of that's been wrapped. The entire top is wrapped. The front rim around here is an impact point. The front face of the saddlebag is also an impact point that has been wrapped. The entire saddle, the sides have been wrapped, and how magic is that? You can't even tell. So really, really cool. I did not wrap the back tail here. You know, I guess I probably should have, but I didn't really see that as a, I personally haven't had any issues with the back tail area of a Harley before. Maybe let's just do a complete walk around. So there's our walk around of the bike. Now, let's check out some of the finer details. The seat that I referred to earlier, they do use a different leather. I did hear it's ostrich leather. I don't know if they still use ostrich leather today, but it is a very, very nice leather that they use. Not really a big deal between that and the standard. In fact, the guy up there, which is my hammock seat that you guys know about if you've seen my touring videos, that is the seat that actually comes on this bike, and I was using on the Road King as well when I tour. It is a hell of a lot more comfortable, but you can feel the difference in the leather types. As you can see, there's the Harley Davidson Custom Vehicle Operations badge that is in the seat. It is a two-part seat, so the pillion piece does come off separately to the rider's seat. As we come up over the tank, so fuel, speed, RPMs, and your battery volts. Obviously, you've got the big touch screen. They updated that, I think, back in 2018, that screen, or 2019. So it's about a year or 18 months old. When you start it up, it looks cool. Check it out. And you have your three main options there of music, navigation and telephone. Boombox audio speakers, stage 2 audio speakers at the front here, and obviously these are the guys in the saddle that have the nice Harley Davidson crest there in the top of the box. That's the Kahuna collection. So you've got the Kahuna collection on the 2020s, so that's the grips, that's your heated grip nodule, so that's just turning to warm it up, obviously on both handles, where you've got the one switch that controls both handles. The engine block looks gorgeous. Everything's color coded. Everything's in black. It's all blacked out. Really, really cool. All the pegs, rear pegs, obviously in Kahuna. One thing that I have done that I do with all of my Harley Davidsons, clip they put in the pillion pegs. There's a clip that sits in behind that nut, which weakens, and these fall down. It really annoys me. I hope it's something that Harley Davidson fix. I put a nut and a bolt through that thread lock tightener on that bolt, so she's not coming off, but I can adjust the tension I want, so it is actually quite sturdy, and that won't be coming down in any ride or falling down at any time. The pipes, I absolutely love. The back lights I love when they're lit up. I mean, they just look really sick. They've got their fillers. Obviously the Road Kings and the standards have, you know, the lights and blinkers that come out from the side here or somewhere up here or wherever it was. These fillers look really, really good. I've heard people refer to them as Cadillac lights. You know, they're bright, more illuminating at night. Reinhardt Slip-Ons I've also put on the motorcycle. I have had Reinhardts before. I just like the way that they sound. I think they do a really good job, Reinhardt. I wanted to keep the original look to the pipes because they've got this beautiful, it's almost like a satin gloss finish to the pipe, and I wanted to keep that look of that satin finish, so I kept all that exhaust covers on there all the way through. Your heat guards as well, your engine heat guards come standard on the CVO. They don't come standard on the other bikes. They make a world of difference when you're riding on a really hot day. Just keeping that heat away from between your legs. So that's it. There's a look at the headlight. Looks pretty awesome when it's lit up. You'll notice I've also had my indicators left and right hardwired up, so they stay on like that while I'm riding. I did the same thing to the Road King. I think it just gives you much better visibility at night time. They do flash, and then when you turn the flasher off, they just resume back on. Actually, I found out it used to be illegal to do that here in Australia, really interestingly enough. I know that you guys in the States have always had that arrangement with riding lights staying on. But I think the government woke up and thought more lights is better. Hopefully they'll do that with exhaust pipes one day. I understand that maybe something a little bit louder is a bit better as well. I get it, some Harleys can be too loud. Some guys ride them very disrespectfully in neighbourhoods. I'm not one of those riders. You go and check the decibels coming out of the sound of some of these trucks that I see on these highways as I'm riding around. You know, they're a hell of a lot louder than some Harley Davidsons, I can tell you right now. So I don't know if you guys have that problem around the world. I know it's an issue here in Australia. So there we go. We've got a 19-inch front wheel. We've got an 18-inch back wheel. None of that's a surprise. Should we crank it? Should we hear it? It's going to be really loud in the garage. Let's start it up. She has a real crack as well in the garage. Yeah, that's really loud. It's actually not that loud outside. I had actually had someone ask about did you just heard the beeps when I turned the bike off, asking why this beeps and why their bike doesn't beep. It is because Harley Davidson, and I'm guessing in an event to save some money, did a couple of things with their 2020 models. When you used to buy a Harley Davidson, they gave you two, well here in Australia anyway, because it wasn't an edition, I know in America, keyless fobs. The keyless fob you get, I believe that's an extra add-on. In Australia it's not, it comes standard. We just pay for it straight off the cuff, you don't get a choice. They used to give you two fobs when you bought a Harley Davidson, they now give you one. They also got rid of the alarm. So that's actually an alarm, that's why you're hearing the chirp. That is actually an alarm. So when you move the bike, it will give you a warning like Harleys used to do. And if you keep moving it too often, bang, it's going to go off. The standards and the specials don't come standard with that. They have an immobilizer with that key fob, so you can't start it, but they got rid of the alarm. They no longer have alarms. So you can, again, order it and buy it as an extra add-on. It's a little bit cheeky there from Harley Davidson, in my opinion. So that's where we are. There's the review of the 2020 CVO Street Glide. I hope it wasn't too boring. I hope it was informative. I've done 3,000 Ks on the bike. I really do love the motorcycle. I'm really enjoying it. I've got some more luggage add-ons that I've got as well, which I'll share with you guys shortly. Stay safe, ride safe, and take care. And please subscribe and like. Take it easy, guys. Bye.